Thank you for joining us today, the Cyber Church of Christ. And we use the King James Version of the Bible. And this is one of the lessons that actually proves why we used the King James Version. Now, today's topic is called charity. And what I've found through my lifetime being in church is this is one of the most ignored uh, commandments that we have. There's the probably the forsaking the assembly being the second worst. But there's people on the planet, especially, that have never even performed an act of charity. And in the church, we'll find out that charity is a commandment for the church and for the individual members of the church. We're going to find that out today. Now, let's start off with just some basic facts about charity. And I hope you're following along here in the notes or in the PDF that comes with the sermon. Uh, Charity is never a verb. And I'm going to bring that out later. Uh, Charity is not prideful, and charity requires giving with zero expectations. By how? By providing spiritual and carnal needs when and where needed. Charity has no time constraint. So I see a need that needs charity to be done, and I go, well, wait till later. There's no such thing. Charity is an active thing that needs to happen now. Providing charity is a commandment of works for each member of the church herself. And love and charity are two different things in life and in the Bible. We're going to also find out perfection can only be accomplished with charity, and that the source of charity is our Father. Now, why would I mention the fact that love and charity are two different things? Well, because that's what's happened in the world. So I'm not quite sure which version of the Bible that you count on, but this should be painfully obvious to you why we use the King James Version. One reason is because why? Look at the word charity. Charity occurs 28 times in 24 verses in the King James. Now, if you're one that's switched over or uses the NIV's completely removed the commandment called charity from all its scriptures. So it's not even found anywhere in their version. And the word charity is only written 3 times in NASB and only once in NSB, ESV, and the Revised Standard Version, the other one. And then I have a comment that says that's shameful. Why? Why are you taking charity out and replacing it? Well, if you look in these other versions, well, they replace it with love. Well, love, everybody has. There's love of self and love. If you love a parent, you're expecting them to love you like a child back. It has an expectation with it. And love is much easier to do. So what happens is we'll find out what is these bogus versions of the Bible have in common is they remove the commandments that require effort. So if it's a deal where it requires works, then go, well, how can we minimize or eliminate the works? Well, one way you can do it, just remove charity and put love in there. And you go, oh, yeah, I have love. So then suddenly you qualify for something and it changes out charity. That's shameful. Love and charity are two different things. They're actually two different Greek words in the Bible. And where love is, it'll say love, and where charity is charity. Now, there might be a couple of places in the King James where love is actually the Greek word. There's a Greek word 22 and 26, and you'll see sometimes where the word charity would go in there. All right, because that's a different kind of love with no expectation. When I started off the sermon, you have no expectations with charity. I'm not expecting you to give you the gift and you say thank you. Well, I got my thank you. Well, that wouldn't even be considered charity because you did get something back in return. You got gratitude back. So we're going to look today. Basically, I've divided the sermon in two things. One is charity's commandments, and the other is charity's attributes. What is it that charity is? How do I spot charity in the Bible? And you'll find a lot of these verses come right out of First Corinthians. And sometimes they'll even have the charity mentioned more than once, even in one verse. Okay. Let's start off today with 1 Corinthians 16:14. Let all your things be done with charity. Okay. What do you mean all things be done? Well, you should be a charitable person. You notice one thing when I said charity is never a verb, because what I love mom, I love steak, I love driving, you can love all kinds, but you can't say, hey, I charity steak. Well, that doesn't even make any sense. So no, you can't make a verb out of charity. It remains a noun and it remains its own thing. Okay. So what we have is let all things be done with charity. That's what I should have in mind when I'm doing any commandment. What is holding that commandment down? What is the essential quality of my commandment? Well, it's actually charity. So charity is actually the guiding force of me doing any commandment. That's what this thing, let all your things be done with charity. Let's go to Colossians 3:14. And we also have a song we sing in our congregation called Put on Charity, and it's based on this Colossians 3:14 and on this topic, charity. Okay, and one of the reasons is we want to emphasize that we do charity. Our congregation is mired in charity. That's what we do. And what do we want? We want the world to be saved. That's a charitable thought. We actually have studied and we can prophesy, because it's in the Bible, what the hereafter looks like, how the earth ends, how you get judged, what happens after you get judged, all in the Bible. Okay. So right now, actually, your breath is charity. It's a gift from God that can be eliminated at any time. All right. Now let's look at Colossians 3:14. And above all these things, put on charity, which is the bond of perfection, of perfectness. So that's what I meant when I said perfection can only be accomplished with charity. I mentioned that in our definition. Well, here's the proof here. That's what actually holds something perfect together. How is a Christian be perfect? Well, would have no sin. Yeah, but what's holding that no sin together is the fact that it has charity involved. So charity is the bond. And anyone that builds something and knows how to put something together and all that, you'll say, hey, well, here's the bonding agent you need. What is that? Well, that makes this thing work. It holds it all together. Well, in the spiritual world, that's what we have. Charity is the bond. That's what's holding all of the commandments together and making all the commandments all complement one another. What is the one thing they all have in common? It's charity. All right, now let's look at the next verse. Keep following along here. 1 Peter 4:8. And above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves. Then there's a colon, and it tells you why. For charity shall cover the multitude of sins. Well, I thought I could sin and then just ask for forgiveness of sin. Okay, well, where's the works in that? You plan on doing what? You ever heard that in a Christian's life? What they do is sin and then ask for forgiveness? And you ask about works? Well, I'm not sure about works. Oh, well, we're supposed to be doing all things with charity. So all things would mean I'm actually doing works. So yeah, now you can see why those other versions of the Bible are changing charity out, because it requires all this work. Love requires very little effort because you're born with love. And there are things and people and places and all that you love. Well, I can't charity a place. I can love a place. Well, that's a point I want to make. Anybody watching and learning here today about charity is it's not the same as love. It's a far cry. It's different. It's different in your vernacular, and it's different in your life. When I love something versus me having charity to do something. Because why? Charity, I'm not expecting any kind of return. If not, it just becomes love. You needed me to change your tire. I changed your tire, and then you say thank you, and I did something good. Well, that's not charity. You had an expectation coming back. Tire got changed, and the other person doesn't know about it. If using a simple explanation, yeah, that becomes charity because you're not going to get a thank you. They don't even know who did it. All right, so we have two verses there that say above all things, put on charity. What is that, a commandment? Yeah, that's a commandment. Well, I do these other, there's a lot of commandments I do all the time, okay? And above all those commandments you do all the time sits charity. What are you doing about that? You do any kind of charity at all? Well, yeah, in my work, what happens is I give a percentage to a charitable foundation, and then I get a tax deduction from it. Okay, so you got an expectation now. Okay, well, guess what? The Bible wouldn't call that a charity. I understand the government and the laws may call that charity, and he has charitable giving, and you give it to some nonprofit. Okay, that's good, except that I'm expecting a return on my little tax thing saying, yeah, I gave to charity. Okay, well, then it doesn't count as charity as far as the Bible goes. You had an expectation coming back. So try to remove the fact that love and charity are different and the fact that charity has no expectation coming back. Love has lots of expectations. Okay, so look at the next verse, 1 Timothy. So far we did Corinthians, Colossians, and 1 Peter. Now we're going to 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy 1:5. Now, the end of the commandment is charity out of a pure heart and of a good conscience and of faith unfeigned. Now, this unfeigned means it's not fake. It's actually real, it's rooted in truth. All right. So let's look at this. 1 Timothy 1:5. What do you mean the end of the commandment? Well, when you get through doing a commandment, it should result in a thing called what? Charity out of a pure heart. Oh. So my commandments that I have in the Bible for me to do, live a Christian life when I get saved in the end, by the way, that's the goal. Yeah, but that should be rooted in charity. That's the end of the commandment, isn't it? When you got to the end of the commandment, what was involved? Charity was involved. And what? Pure heart. You did it not because it's a commandment, it's because you wanted to do it. Right? Now, faith unfeigned. Why did you throw faith in there? Well, because how are you going to do any charity without faith? It requires faith just to even have charity into your life. Because why? I'm wanting to please the Father. When the Father goes, oh, you want to please me? Hey, let me give you this commandment, charity, and it's the end of the commandment, all right? Oh. And above all things, I got charity there. So charity, you should be doing what? Well, if you're faithful, then charity's coming out of your pure heart. You have a good conscience. You're thinking about what? I'm actually thinking about the judgment and getting judged, meaning counted worthy in the end and living in heaven. Okay, well, that whole bond, that should be all bonded in charity. Didn't we say that's the bond of perfectness? Yeah, okay. So that's what's holding things together. So what holds all of the commandments together? Charity. So charity out of a pure heart. So anyway, I get a definition right out of the Bible. Here's what charity looks like. Here's the result of it. And let's go ahead and describe it. Describe it as pure, good conscience, faith unfeigned. So you want to show your faith, let's see the charity. Okay? And then charity should be between who? You and the Father. Exactly. Now, let's go to 1 Corinthians, which is where charity appears many times in 1 Corinthians. And the rest of our sermon is all going to be in 1 Corinthians. All right, so let's look at this commandment. 1 Corinthians 14, verse 1. Follow after charity and desire spiritual gifts, but rather that the ye may prophesy. Why would you, in your good conscience, give something without an expectation? Well, because I'm fulfilling prophecy. I'm actually pleasing the Father, and I know this is going to count as works. Remember? And besides that, We found that in 1 Peter 4:8 that you read a while ago. It covers a multitude of sins. Well, I was thinking just getting forgiveness of sin. Hey, I'm doing what? Well, you're not going to do anything. You're just going to sin and then get forgiveness of sin. Okay, well, that's why charity is a commandment. And you can see we got several verses that say charity is a commandment. Because why? I'm expecting works to be done out of a pure heart, and that can cover what? That can cover multitude of sins. So follow after charity. Why do you want to do the commandment? Because of charity first. That's what's holding this commandment together, and then I'm going to do it. And you're going to get what? Spiritual gifts. Oh. Yeah, not carnal. Notice it doesn't say carnal gifts. I'm getting spiritual gifts. Why? That's what I desire. I'd rather have that. And that way I can prophesy. What are you going to prophesy about? What do you want to know about? You want to know about the ending of the earth? You want to know about the judgment day? Whether you get into heaven or not? Well, that's all prophesy. That's what we do. That's one of our commandments. Not today's sermon, but it's in today's sermon. Okay, that you would prophesy. Why? Well, you should know what's going to happen in the end. You should know what's going to happen to planet Earth and what's going to happen to your spirit at the judgment day. And many times I've asked somebody, what's the difference between, they'll ask me, when is the world going to end? What's the difference between you dying and the world ending? You need to worry about when your spirit leaves your body and you're going to be in some waiting place, waiting for judgment. And then your concern should be the judgment day, not the end of the earth. The end of the earth is going to be sad because no one else would have a chance to be saved in the end. So we're wanting the earth to continue. So why? So we can spread the truth. We're actually, anybody watching this video, we actually want you to be saved in the end. That's a charitable thought. Okay. Now let's get to the second half of the sermon, and that's the attributes. What does charity look like? What are the things that make up charity? And that's what we're going to find out. So we're going to look at these 4 verses. They're all going to be in 1 Corinthians 13. First, we're going to look at verses 2 through 4, and then we'll look at 13:13. All right, 1 Corinthians 13:2. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. Oh. So, but I have knowledge, and I understand the mystery of the scriptures and getting saved in the end and all that. And I can actually show you in the scriptures, I have the gift of prophecy. Yeah, well, what about charity? Oh. Well, I have faith. I have a lot of faith. I'm going to get saved. Okay, what about charity? Well, that's what this verse comes up with. Yeah. Then start listing these things that you do, and then goes, oh, what about if you don't have charity? Then it says nothing. Those don't even count now. But me understanding and getting knowledge and all, well, it doesn't count if it doesn't have charity. I thought we said charity was the bond. Yeah, that's what bonding everything together. The prophecy and mysteries and knowledge, those are separate things, right? Well, what are you going to hold them all together with? You can hold them all together with charity, because it says here you have nothing unless you have charity. So that's one thing we want to do. Well, no wonder those other versions remove the charity. Let's just put love in there and then have you bond on love. Then you understand. Much easier, huh? Yeah, except it doesn't please the Father. How would you have the Father gives you a commandment and go, wait a minute, let me change that commandment from charity to love? You ought to be ashamed of yourself. No, it's charity. And then we're finding out today in this sermon exactly what charity is, what it looks like, how you do it. All right. Now, verse 3, we're looking at 1 Corinthians 13:3. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. So what do you want a thing called spiritual gain? Well, yeah, and I've heard sermons. We had actually our assistant preacher talk about having in the hereafter, having an account, Okay, what do you have in your account in heaven? You didn't know there was an account? Yeah, there's. You can have your name. You have an account in heaven, and then you're going to do what? Well, I'm wanting to add to that account. Okay, well, let's see. You gave all your. I gave all my goods to feed the poor. Okay, well, that's excellent. Yeah, you should have sympathy for the poor, feed the poor. And my body to be done, sacrifice my body for the sake of mankind. That's what this means. And but you don't have charity. Okay, then they profited nothing. So you're not going to count any works that I did for my record, for my judgment day, unless I have charity. Well, yeah, I just told you, no charity, no profit. There's no gain. So for me to have spiritual gain, I've got to have charity. Yeah, just read it. Without charity, you don't get any profit at all. The profit comes from charity. What is it that's bonding all of your commandments together? What about your record in heaven? What's holding that together? Oh, charity. Okay, so this is above love. Well, yeah, it's above all things. Put on charity, right? So above all things is charity. So you don't want to remove the thing that sits at the top. What happens to everything sitting underneath it? Well, they become separate entities or fall apart. Well, it makes sense. But you just said it was a bond. Yeah, it's a bonding everything together. So when you have profiteth you nothing spiritually if you don't have charity. That's exactly what this says. Now, 1 Corinthians 13:4. And we're going to have the word charity actually 3 times in this one verse. Okay. Charity suffereth long and is kind. Charity envieth not, and charity vaunteth not itself, is not puffed up. Because why? I want to brag to you about how much charity I did. Okay, well, then you just eliminated it being charity. Well, yeah, you just puffed yourself up. You go, hey, guess what I did? I did these 3 things. I did charity, charity, charity. And so now I'm a much better person, much better Christian. Okay, so you puffed yourself up there? You vaunted, bragged to your friends? Yeah. Well, then that ain't charity. The charity is you don't have an expectation. It's just done. I saw a need, provided the need. How did you provide the need? Oh, because the Father gave you charity to have that to give to somebody. What if you're being tested to see if you have charity? What if the Father gave you something to go, oh boy, now you have things that you can give charity wise. And then I go, nah, I'll keep it all for myself. And besides that, what charity envieth not? So the fact that I don't have any envy at all is charity. So if there's any kind of envy involved, then it's not charity. But love, yeah, I love that place, love that people, love that car, whatever it is that I love, especially money, okay, then that's not charity because you're loving something else. There's no envy in charity. So that's what we're finding out about attributes. First of all, unless you have charity, you're nothing. It doesn't profit you anything unless you have charity. And now I get to verse 4 and it says, first of all, it suffered long. Well, I gave charity and nothing happened. That's right. That's exactly what should happen. And it should happen all the time. That's what the long is. And it's kind. When is charity not kind? Never. Oh, well, that's why it says is kind. So any kind of charitable act is kindness. It's just by definition. And then you don't brag about it. It's just being kind. That's actually, it should already be made up of your whole spiritual life should be bond with charity. That should be make up everything that you do is charitable. All right, let's look at the last verse I got printed out today. 1 Corinthians 13:13. Yeah, so you notice we didn't do 28 and 24 verses, the 28 times and 24 verses that's in the Bible, and I encourage you to read them all. But yeah, we didn't print out 24 verses here, but I am pointing out some highlights and say, hey, I'll split this into charity being a commandment and what charity looks like. And so anyway, I encourage you to look at the other verses that involve charity. So let's finish today with 13:13, 1 Corinthians. And now abideth faith, hope, charity. These three. But the greatest of these is charity. Wait a minute, you're saying charity is greater than faith? Yeah, just printed it out, just showed you. It's in the Bible. Charity is greater than faith. Well, we're saved by faith. I do all my works by faith. Yeah, and what's holding all those works together? Of charity. Yeah. And you have hope to go into what? Well, I'm hoping that I get saved in the end and get accounted worthy and be in heaven. Okay, well, guess what? The greatest, something greater than that is charity. You're saying charity's greater than hope and greater than faith? Yeah, it's right here, 1 Corinthians 13:13. So that's what's the greatest of anything, of any of the commandments. Greater than love, greater than anything is what? Charity. Why? That's bonding everything together. So that's what I'm wanting you to learn today is, first of all, it's a commandment. The church should be charity. You should have charity in your heart. And then he calls it fervent charity. Remember that among yourselves? That was 1 Peter 4:8. But fervent charity, I mean, I'm really pumped up on charity. And it covers a multitude of sins. Huh? No, I did the sin and then I got forgiveness. Right. And you left out charity. Have you thought about charity covering sin? Well, not till today, not till I read that. Okay, well, charity covers a multitude of sins. Because why? It's sitting on top. It's actually greater than faith. And it's greater than hope. So this is what 1 Corinthians 13:13 says. What abide of faith, hope, and charity. But charity is the greatest. So charity sits on top of everything, should be what guiding force. So what is the guiding force of all of your commandments? You're wanting to get into heaven. Where's the charity? That's how important it is. That's why, is the Father charitable to you? Does he give you things without expectation? Well, he's a loving Father, and he is expecting me to love him and do his commandment. Okay, well, he gave you charity as a commandment on top of all your commandments. That's the greatest. All right. Anyway, I'm hoping that enters into your thinking and then implement it into your life and help you think about that. What am I doing charity-wise, and does it count as charity? Okay, so anyway, check out some more of our videos. Thank you for watching this today, and hope you learn something. That's certainly our goal, is to provide the truth, live in truth, and teach the truth. Hope you have a great day. Thank you for watching.